Here I am in the centre of Woking, in the town square, watching the people go by, drinking my coffee. Who are they? Why are they here? And what drew them to Woking?
A picture of Woking in the 21st century, and a story of Woking, how it came to be.
And before all this modern stuff, what was here before? I don't mean what was demolished to make way for this. After all, Woking, like many towns, has been periodically reinventing itself from time to time. It all started here. This is the River Wey in northwest Surrey. It's a tributary of the Thames. There's water meadows, places to graze cattle, catch fish. It's navigable by small boats, although it's fordable in places as well.
A place for the ancient tribes to put down roots after the last ice age. No one knows why Woking is called Woking. Maybe it was once Wok's place, he being an Anglo-Saxon tribal chief. Maybe. Archaeology shows that different people passed through here down the ages, just as they still do, but they didn't come to modern Woking.
They came here. In the 21st century, it's called Old Woking. It's by the River Wey on slightly higher ground.
The Tudors had a palace near here, quite a grand one, but there's not much to see now. There's been a Christian church here since at least the 7th century. And the river bridge and causeway over the water meadows are probably at least as old in one way or another. So why is Woking, modern Woking, where it is now? The answer is this: the railway. In the Great Britain of the 1830s, the brand new idea of train transport brought on a fever of building, and a route from London to the port of Southampton was going to make some people lots of money. The actual route plan went through various iterations, but the final version had its first interim terminus here. The railway was preceded by this canal, the Basingstoke Canal. It was commercially unsuccessful, and apparently the builders hadn't entirely worked out that you need lots of water at the highest point to make it work properly. It mostly carried coal and timber. On the first day of the railway, the 21st of May 1838, a party of dignitaries travelled from the then London terminus of Nine Elms to Woking Common Station, ate a buffet lunch of salmon and cold beef, and returned. It was the most important day in the history of modern Woking. At the time there was nothing here but heathland, with Woking 1.5 miles away. That didn't last. It was instantly a place to connect to the stagecoaches for Guildford, Portsmouth, Basingstoke and onward. By 1840 the railway hotel was built by the station, supplying food, rest and stabling. Modern Woking was on its way. But not much happened for a few years. Then, in the 1850s, the London Necropolis and National Mausoleum Company was formed. London had a problem burying people, and the idea was to create a huge cemetery here, connected by the new railway. Somehow, an Act of Parliament allowed them to buy far more land than they could realistically use, and it wasn't long before large chunks were being sold off for housing, especially near the station. For a large profit, of course. Victorian Woking grew rather haphazardly and has continued to do so ever since, reinventing itself every so often. In the 2010s, an ever-increasing population persuaded the council it needed to build upwards rather than spreading outwards, covering the green spaces around the town. In the 2020s, that process is ongoing.
So, Woking in the 2020s, what's it like? Who lives here? Let's take a look around. Here's a greengrocer's run by Boz, but we'll come back to him later.
When people watch old films or look at photos, it's often the clothes, the shops, the cars that define the time it was made. Here's a look at central Woking in the early 2020s. Restaurants.
Good afternoon and welcome to Buckrow, Woking's premier Italian restaurant, #1 on TripAdvisor. We'll see you for lunch or dinner.
That should be good for a free lunch. Restaurants of all kinds form a good proportion of the retail outlets now, replacing the dressmakers, the shoe repairer, the hardware shops and so on of earlier times. Woking Borough is long and quite narrow. Not only does it include the town itself with various districts, but also surrounding villages, or maybe they're small towns. The Byfleets, Purford, Knapp Hill, Horsell. The summer of 2022 was a time of celebration of the Platinum Jubilee of Queen Elizabeth II. The town and its surroundings were decorated. Here, knitted soldiers in West Byfleet. A street party in Knapp Hill. Sadly, just a few weeks later, the country was in mourning. Various notable people have lived in Woking, but perhaps the most notable was writer H.G. Wells. He lived in Maybury Road for 18 months and wrote The Invisible Man and War of the Worlds.
No one would have believed in the last years of the 19th century that this world was being watched keenly and closely by intelligences greater than man's. Yet across the gulf of space, intellects vast and cool regarded this earth with envious eyes, and slowly and surely drew their plans against us. Very early in the morning, Ogilvy, who had seen the shooting star and who was persuaded that a meteorite lay somewhere on the common between Horsell, Ottershaw and Woking, rose early with the idea of finding it. Find it he did, soon after dawn, and not far from the sandpits.
Woking isn't a place with a long history, so it makes the most of what it has. For instance, here's Dame Ethel Smythe, conductor, composer and suffragette. Woking in the early part of the 21st century is a place to live for people from many parts of the world.
My family are Turkish Cypriot.
I'm from Congo.
Venezuela.
Originally from north of India.
We all came from Pakistan originally.
Before that, I live in Hong Kong.
Yeah, my name is Boz Amick. I live in Chobham.
Any bowl you like for £1, a bowl?
Yes, I came from Bosnia. Came from Bosnia, 92 I came. Every morning my brother Ali goes to market and buys 6 days a week. All fresh, all hand selected, to Woking, all round. Restaurants, pubs, home deliveries. Yeah.
Councillor Saj Hussain is the 2022 Mayor of Woking.
I came to Woking in 1968. So early communities in Woking were the Spanish, the Italians, and few from Indian subcontinent, mainly Pakistan. I don't know what the attraction was for the Italians and the Spanish, but for the Pakistanis, it was the Muslim Shah Jahan Mosque.
The mosque was built in 1889. It's the first purpose-built mosque in northwestern Europe and in Great Britain. The mosque was built as a place of worship for students that were coming predominantly from India, studying at the Oriental College, which was a building that was next door where we currently have the Lion Retail Park.
The oldest religion represented in Woking is Christianity.
This church here at St Peter's is a beautiful old church. We are 900 years old, the original building. There was a Saxon building on its site before that. So we've got an awful lot of history. One of the things that's particularly well known for in this church is the door that you enter the main body of the church is the original door to the church, 900 years old, a lovely Norman door. And it's just beautiful, probably the third oldest door in the country, the oldest in Surrey.
Woking has a number of other Christian churches. Here the Anglican St Nicholas in Purford, and the Catholic Church in West Byfleet. Here a Buddhist temple which was once the Anglican Church for the Brookwood Asylum. Now let's take some random steps sideways. Woking's biggest employer is McLaren's, a maker of racing cars and expensive sports cars, a landmark factory on the edge of town. In the centre, another landmark is the Ambassadors Complex with cinemas and theatres. Here in a quiet period, but not for long.
Ambassadors Theatre Group has been around for 30 odd years. It established itself here in Woking back in 1992. In the New Victoria Theatre we have mostly touring product, so big musicals like Chicago, so really kind of big touring shows that tour nationally into theatres of this particular size, and then that's peppered through the year with other shows, so some tribute acts, some one-night shows that make up the rest of the programme.
This is Woking's men's shed, a more organised version of the one at the bottom of your garden.
The purpose of the shed project is to address the issues surrounding loneliness and isolation in older men.
Meanwhile, in Knapp Hill, this is the community fridge.
Trying to take surplus waste from supermarkets and the local community, stop it going into landfill. That goes hand in hand with now providing surplus food to community that is under constant pressure.
Continuing the serious vein, Woking's crematorium is one of the oldest in the country, whilst Brookwood Cemetery is still very much in business. Let's take some more random sideways steps. In St John's, people enjoy the canal, these days a place for leisure. Here's Jubilee Square in the summer of 2022. You can sit and watch Wimbledon tennis on a huge screen, or play table tennis yourself. Just down the road is Shearwater. It's long been known as one of Surrey's most deprived areas, but now it's being massively regenerated.
I don't know, what can I say, is it new as good or no, but no anymore is like Shearwater, what looks like it used to be. There's so many new big buildings now.
Woking has the UK headquarters of the World Wildlife Fund, next door to Woking's Lightbox Art Centre.
The Lightbox is 15 years old this year actually. It started in 2007. It won Museum of the Year award in 2008, a very prestigious nationally recognised museum award. We have the opportunity in this extraordinary building to show work that's been on loan from national collections, so to work with the major national galleries, Tate, V&A, and to bring phenomenal work to Woking for audiences here.
Woking enjoys its leisure. This is Mizzen's Railway, giving joyrides to all. The big sports, like most other towns, are cricket and football.
So I think Woking now is a multicultural. There isn't any trouble that you can pinpoint, not to a culture or race aspect.
So to whom shall we give the last word? In a town of diverse races and religions, here's Martin Cutmore, president of Old Woking Cricket Club.
We've got all types here. And we've also got small people, tall people, dare I say, well, a few people who might be considered overweight. You never know.
So there we have it, a look at Woking in the early 2020s. Like most places, it has good and bad, but its growing and ever more diverse population lives mostly in harmony. Is this a fair view of Woking? Who knows? Is it a full view of Woking? Certainly not. It's just a wander through a busy town in the early 2020s. And if by some chance you're watching this in the early 3020s, well, hello from history.